So as much as possible.
Okay, I'm not on the screen.
Well, the hell with him. We don't need him out.
Interview him. Interview Harold.
No. We're going to be late for Mr. Bennett. We'll have to. I mean, not Bennett, but you're Bennett.
I'm Bennett.
Yeah,
Mr.
Bennett's
Gravel.
Talk. Oh, okay. Welcome very much to Conversations. Pleasure to welcome to the program Bennett Kremen. He's a major intellectual, I would say, and he's a person that we've run into particularly recently, and we're finding a lot of interesting things to discuss with him. We've done programming with in the past, and at his initiative, he's brought me around to thinking differently about some premises that I had toward the human condition that ought to be examined carefully, not only by the society in general, but myself. And for that, I thank him for calling attention to a particular take on the human condition that it'd be well for me to understand better. I would like to learn that with you here now on this program and share it with the audience because I think it's really important. And it's an honor to welcome you to the program once again, Bennett. Welcome to Conversations to talk about something important like the thoughts of Bennett Kremen.
Harold, it's an honor to be here.
Okay.
Really.
Now, you've been telling me you're very concerned now, as a lot of people are, and we're talking about the condition of Homo sapiens species. We agree. About 200,000 years ago, our species emerged out of Homo erectus. That was a whole different species. We have appeared, and that's about 10,000 generations. And the generation that we're now in and part of is at a crucial point of departure from the historical 200,000 year sojourn. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I want to get to that.
Yeah, please.
Let's start out with a serious problem right now in the world.
Yeah.
There should be air raid sirens sounding.
Yeah.
There was a report that came out from the United Nations about climate change, global warming.
Right.
Everybody knows about the forest fires in California.
Horrible.
Everybody knows that Puerto Rico lost 4,000 people in the hurricane, still haven't recovered.
Right.
The New York subway system is not functioning because of global warming that brought us Sandy. People going from Brooklyn to New York and New York to lower Manhattan to New York are not going to be able to get there because the L train is shut down. Global warming flooded that tunnel, and that's why global warming had the floods and the hurricanes in Houston and in Dallas. And global warming is bringing water and is starting to inundate Miami Beach.
Right, you are.
All right?
Yeah.
This is real. Denying it is like denying the nose on your face.
Why are we so prominent in denying it?
All right.
So much of the population.
I'll get into that. There is a report that came out from the United Nations a month ago, and another one that came out a week ago from the U.S. government. The alarm about global warming is like nothing else I've ever seen in my life.
And we've had long lives, you and I both.
From that report is this statement.
Yes, sir.
From one of the people who organized, one of the chairmen of the United Nations who organized this report. The next few years are probably the most important in human history.
I would agree.
Now that's a big statement.
It is sure indeed.
Coming from a government official.
Yeah, right.
They don't talk that way.
No, they don't.
They talk
right.
double speak
outside,
and political talk.
Yes.
They don't lay things out like that.
No,
that's major.
Yeah.
All right. This report has, let me tell you, this report was put together since the Paris Climate Accord. Mandated that they do this report, and it was put together by 91 scientific authors from 44 different countries, 14 coordinated lead authors, 60 coordinated lead authors, 60 lead authors, 17 review editors, 133 contributing authors from all over the world, over 6,000 cited references and studies, and a total of 42,001 expert and government review commentators.
Right, and this is recent,
Yeah.
right?
So, you know,
Yeah.
what more do you need in the way of expertise?
Yeah, yeah.
And here's the statement.
Yeah, okay.
The next few years are probably the most important in human history. All right.
Yeah.
This
We
is-
are in agreement, sir.
All
yeah.
right.
Well,
Here are some of the statistics on that. Before industrialization, before the Industrial Revolution,
yes.
the bottom line, weather was at, you know, a constant degree for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. It started to change with the Industrial Revolution, when CO2 gases started going up into the clouds. Over all these years, it's been accelerating year after year. So we reached, it elevated 1 Celsius, 1 degree. As a result of that 1 degree rise, we have the forest fires in California, 4,000 dead in a hurricane in Puerto Rico.
Directly attributable, you think?
Directly attributed to that 1 degree.
Are you sure? They've had them in the past.
Right, they've had them in the past.
Yeah.
But the intensity and the...
Yeah, it was
all right,
horrible. It just happened
right.
in California.
And
awful.
according to this report and everything else, speculating, that was a mild tap from Mother Nature.
Wow.
What's coming is going to make that look very gentle.
Now, spell it out some more. Let's
All
talk.
right.
Yeah, okay.
More
yeah,
in this report.
Yeah, please.
The next few years are probably the most important in human history. In the next 10, we have 10 years.
This is 2018.
Right.
So 2025, say,
2000,
maybe?
all right.
Step it up a bit.
2028 to 30. 10 years, 12 years, 10, 12, maybe 8 years. You know, there's a variability. If the carbon emissions into the atmosphere are not reduced in the next 10 years by 45%.
Now, how...
You have to cut those emissions, you know, Harold?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what that means?
No, I'm not sure.
That means incredibly radical changes.
Well, let's talk. Okay, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. And it's not being adequately addressed by our political leadership?
Not at all.
No. It is being by our intellectual leadership.
Yeah, they're starting to, these scientists are starting to
and
do
it's
it.
all over the world.
Yeah, but it's not, it should be alarm bells ringing.
Who was the first to ring out an alarm on that? How far back? I think of Jim Henson.
Oh, he's
been on the case for decades, right?
Yes, Jim Henson's
He's still at Columbia, I think. Yeah, and his people, But who else has been able to look ahead, as it were?
Well, you know, Al Gore did it.
Al Gore did it. Yeah, absolutely.
He tried to ring the alarm bell.
But there were,
and he was right.
Yeah, but there were assumptions within the political order that didn't want to see this kind of thing to be addressed by what was being suggested.
Well, the current administration is denying it.
No, he did. First act.
Today.
I think the first thing he got
denied it today.
Yeah, again.
He doesn't believe it.
What's the date?
I just quoted, what is it, 91 scientists from all over the world. 42,000 government review comments from all over the world. They all say yes. They're saying no.
But why is there people wanting to say no? There must be some reason. I think it might have to do with economic interests of the system in place that can't be allowed to be stifled by a bunch of do-gooders who usually are sort of thought of as leftists or much less than that. You understand?
Yes.
It's a political thing.
Well,
and there's great
political,
economic interest.
It's economic, it's habit. It's
That's
fear
true.
of the unknown.
Well,
it's the inability to change. It's the inability to see life in any other terms except the ones you grew up in.
Well,
like it doesn't allow. And it's a dwarfed imagination.
Yeah.
It's the inability to it's fear. It's denial. It's psychological cowardice.
Is that more or less a summary of the historical effect and attitude of the human species? Or is it something that's due to this era only? Or is that something that's been part of the pattern throughout the whole 200,000 years? What, 10,000 generations of our species? Or how do we address that question?
Well, there is a well-known phenomena in human psychology called denial.
Yeah, right.
Or the defense mechanism.
Right.
You don't want to see things that scare you, or that attack your interest or your ego. So there are all kind of little
economic interests.
Right, economic, psychological, you know, tribal interest, different kind of interest.
Yeah.
So there's a
centripetal forces.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are all in play. But we all know that if you get a diagnosis from your doctor that says you have a slight little lump in your prostate, and they say, well, okay, doctor, what is it? He says, well, it's cancer, but it's small. I said, well, I got small.
Yeah.
You get a diagnosis, you got a very tiny little lump in your breast.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're all right? You played tennis that afternoon? Does that mean you're all right?
I don't think necessarily it is.
Do you? What do you think?
No,
I don't think you're all right.
You think you ought to listen to the doctor man?
I think you better listen to the doctor.
Should we listen to the doctor men on this global issue? And they're the scientists by and large, not the political class?
No, they're not.
Are there
these
any
are scientists. If they are really scientists, they are not politically influenced.
Yeah, but the people who are in charge of the world order are mostly political
well,
people. They're not scientists.
You don't get 42,000 comments from. You would have to organize a conspiracy like, Wilde's conspiracy that's all political. These scientists are from all over the world. Some of them probably conservative, some are liberal, some are radical.
You know what, Al? From a certain perspective, they're pointy-headed scientists. They're called pointy-headed scientists,
well, the next time
they're downgraded.
Next time you get an infection and the pointy-headed scientist gives you penicillin and say, no, you're a pointy-headed scientist, I'm going to keep the infection, you keep the penicillin.
Penicillin was a magnificent invention.
Well, those pointy-headed people did it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you want to deny the pointy-headed people? Well, then you better go out and collect berries in the wilderness because your food supply depends on these pointy-headed people.
Maybe it's
They created the technology so that you can live this way.
Well, maybe yes and no, but let's just say, for instance, they will take the position that's just a lot of unnecessary, frenetic worrying by some pointed-headed scientists that don't really understand the political realities of the operation of this interrelated system, spaceship Earth, and there are economic interests that have to be taken into account, and we can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater.
All right, so you have a little lump in your breast, but listen,
I'm
busy, I got work to do. That's more important than the little lump in my breast. So go to hell, I'm going to ignore it. No, it doesn't work that way. If you have political and economic and various interests, you better stay alive to do it. If you ignore the little lump in your breast, you're going to die. You're not going to do anything. You don't have any politics. You're dead.
No, but that doesn't get away from the people who make the decisions, that make the things determining what causes or what the results or what the reality of it is.
They have children.
And the first instance of our current president, it goes back into other presidents, was to deny the science.
Well, they deny the science, but
because it does not fit into the economic order that is necessary.
That's too bad, whether it fits in or not. They're going to pay for it, Harold, because if they have children, according to this report, in 50 years, their children are in mortal danger.
Well, there are other people have done that. Why don't we go back up? We're both got some years behind us. In fact, I got a bunch of years behind me. I know like that, but I can remember way back to Roosevelt, and that kind of thing.
So could I.
But I can remember that there was a tremendous amount of attention put by the political economy, the political leadership of the time. And let's say we just go back to the Great Depression of the 20s and so forth and everything, or then the resulting Great Depression, where it was a terrible upset of the whole society and everything. And then there developed in Europe a runaway fellow who got a lot of attention by applying to the sacred issues that were relevant to the Germanic people. His name was Adolf. And he had a last name, and there was one in Italy about Italians. His first name was Benito.
I heard of that.
Do you understand, right? And they had that, and then that caused the president of a democratically inclined society who'd had a massive failure with great suffering for a whole lot of people and bad perceptions or bad perfections for the future to enact what they called the New Deal, and also to enact something called Social Security. And those are all things that were directed at trying to do something about the least advantaged among us, rather than only catering to or encouraging the best among us. The most successful among us have always been favored forever in the human condition. They were called a pharaoh in Europe. They had a sphinx. And they had kings for 1,000 years in Rome, after Rome. And there were always a few people at the castle on the hill living very, very well. And that's the order of the day. It's held like that throughout all of this. And now you understand they finally got the atomic bomb. That was a big development, was it not?
Oh,
all
really?
of our resources were introduced from the intellectual community, the physicists and so forth, in order to get a bomb, so we could bomb them before they could bomb us, and the war was going on. But out of that, there came a development of of earth-shattering significance in terms of the larger human condition. So that's part of the situation, and those economic interests are what motivate the political process more than all of these people worrying about some little issue like global warming that seems to be a half of a degree here or there, and people can go out and water their garden or something. If you understand, and that can be sold to the population, because to go out and do something that's going to real deal with it might actually prove difficulty to a good deal of a number of the people at the top of the society that make the decisions.
Either they do it, Harold, or it's suicide. That's what this report is saying. I'll give you the facts and figures on it.
Okay, do. If you could, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If greenhouse gas emissions are not cut in the next 10 years by 45%.
Is this what they come up with?
Yeah, I have them all here.
Yeah.
I can give you all it's all here.
Yeah, okay.
You got 91 scientists working on this.
Were you've got some years on you too. Were you thinking of this 25 years ago? I wasn't. I wasn't thinking that. I was saying, how can I get a better suntan?
Right. I started thinking about it. Remember Rachel Carson?
Yeah, oh yeah, Silent Spring. Yeah, she was great.
I started thinking about these things after reading that book.
Yeah, okay.
That's how far back I
okay. Well, you were in the van of that kind of thinking.
Well, I read that book, and but it's very impressive and meaningful book.
A lot of people are all worried about a little thing that doesn't matter. What matters is the gross domestic product and the Dow.
Well, don't worry about that little lump in your breast. Worry about how much money, what's your 401k doing. Okay. That's the logic.
Well, suppose we back
up. It's a little. Why should I worry about it?
Yeah, the heck with it, yeah. It'll go away, just like that. I had a pimple once,
I don't want
to
think about it.
Yeah,
leave me alone.
Right, and that's the attitude that people would be happy to be able to have.
What kind of attitude is that?
And it probably didn't have as good a scientific base for understanding it in anything other terms. And then also, why don't we just sort of just take all that and put it on a lot of people are interested in that now. And what about this whole intervening period? It was called the Homo sapien existence.
Okay.
And we agree then, and science does. And there could be some differentiation. There's some people out of holy traditions and so forth who have beliefs in gods and things like that in order to give some understanding of what the world's all about and everything. But by and large, it seems to me the intellectual community that is able to, with good logic and presentation of well-backed up statistics and all that sort of thing, agree that we emerged evolutionarily about 200,000 years ago as a species. We're all Africans. We started
in Africa.
We started in Africa out of a Ardre in that, and that we started out from Homo sapien. 10,000 generations. That would be if you say 20 years or so, and we've been here all that time. Now that's a long time.
Yes.
Okay, and then what has been the condition in which the human society has emerged or survived through all of that period? what was the conditions that had them emerge out of the precondition of, what was it, Homo erectus? Homo erectus was it seems to be agreement. What's been the pattern in that 200,000 year sojourn?
Okay, that relates directly to our discussion about global warming. I'll connect the two.
Okay, do.
They are related.
It's very important, don't you think?
They are related.
Yeah.
This solution, again, I don't know how, I feel like getting on the roof and screaming.
Why don't you?
We got 10 years to work something out, or they're irreversible thing. In 10 years, the climate will go above 1.5 Celsius. Then we get, if it's not collected in the next 10 years, it'll go above 1.5 Celsius. Yeah. If it goes above 1.5 Celsius, there'll be droughts in the Middle West. There'll be starvation in America. That possibility.
Well, there's been starvation.
No, I mean mass starvation. Crop failures.
Not only in America.
1936, there was a crop failure in America.
In what year?
1930, Dust Bowl.
Yes,
Dust Bowl.
It was terrible.
There was a crop failure in America.
I remember.
We had in stock, in silos and canned foods and warehouses. We had food, so there wasn't mass starvation.
Right.
If that drought lasted 2 years, or 3 years, which the global warming situation is setting up possibility. The next year, in 37, the rains came and there was a crop, and we got through it. If we have a drought like that again, and it lasts not 1 year, but 2 or 3 years because of global warming,
3 decades.
You will have mass starvation. You'll use up the stocks and silos. There'll be people dying in the streets of New York.
But I don't think
that's how bad it is.
But if I may, sir. There have been cases like that throughout history where there's been, there's been human suffering. Remember the defense against the Persian hordes by the Athenians back in the time of, Alexander and all of that. There have been things that have been survived. We survived a Second World War that was due to be coming, and we had a civil war that nearly tore the thing apart. Terrible kind of things going on. But that is not the whole of the Homo sapiens species.
All right.
There would be a few people could survive somewhere, and they could carry on. They might even do pretty well in a castle on a hill with, some sort of protection against the mass. There'd be a lot of destruction, but it wouldn't mean the end of the species, would it?
They
would still be
real irreversible global warming.
Yeah.
If it really is called the greenhouse,
the
total global warming.
Yeah.
There have been planetary systems that have experienced that. It would make life it's threatening not only to mankind but to the biosphere.
Right.
The whole biosphere.
Yeah. Mankind's probably most interested in the
Other
mankind.
planets have gone through that. They've
other
had global
planets.
Other planets.
That's interesting. Out in other
galaxies.
Other galaxies. Even.
Right.
Okay.
Astronomers have studied this.
Well, we're getting to be able to look more and more.
No,
yeah, you're right. That way more. Yeah.
They can do that now.
Right.
There have been planets that have gone through a greenhouse effect.
But they had things like they had the Holocaust in Europe with their thing. Mr. Mussolini had his thing down in Italy and that kind of stuff. And they get through it.
If the global warming happened, Mussolini was wiped out. They hung him from a lamppost. The Italian economy recovered. Italy became a...
Well, that's the point, really.
Global warming, after 10 years, some of it is irreversible.
Yeah.
In Germany and in Japan, it was reversible. You got rid of the fascists, and then we got back to Italy and Germany as it is today.
Yes, sir.
With global warming, you reach a point where you cannot reverse it.
Okay, you can't. So you live, and there's some people who are resistant to global warming, and they would survive, and there would be people who survive.
Depends how
you
bad...
would not... The global warming and extension of that would not wipe out all of Homo sapiens.
It depends how...
No, it wouldn't.
Depends how severe.
No. You can project
I told you there's
kinds
been
of
some
severe.
planets that have had global warming phenomena that would make life impossible. We are in a sweet zone, Earth, that allows us to survive and biological entities.
Yeah, but I still think even if you
you
had the
create
worst
circumstances that threaten the environment at such a level that you will destroy, you potentially can destroy the biosphere.
Well, I don't see. You see that in the record of the scientists presenting that? I can't see that. I can see there might be
I'm going to read it again, Harold.
a new take.
I'm going to read it again, Harold.
Well,
the next few years are probably the most important in human history.
Well, that
I didn't
agree
write
with.
that.
That I agree with.
Well, what did they mean by that?
Well, let's talk about it.
No, I'm trying to.
What do you mean? We've been here 200,000 years, and it seems nothing. We've been faced with all kinds of things. We had ice ages, we had mastodons, we had saber-toothed tigers, and we had all kinds of things like that, and we're still here. And we're here, and we're going, and we're very successful, and so forth like that. And I don't think anything that the worst things that might occur under total unrestrained global warming would not wipe out the Homo sapiens species. There would still be Homo sapiens surviving, and they would carry on the culture in a different way. It would be like the atomic bomb thought it was a really big thing, particularly the people in Hiroshima and so forth. But there were people in North America that went on, and there would be people still going on. It would just be very, very inconvenient, as that's the loaded term, to a great number of people, but the species would still survive.
That's absolutely possible.
Yeah, okay. It
Also
might be another blitch in another blip in the evolution that goes, and it goes back 10,000 generations.
It's saying 500 Auschwitz are okay because we're still going to survive.
Well, yeah. No, that's just a fact. It wouldn't wipe out the species. The species would survive.
I'm saying, Harold, that's an open question. You don't have the answer, neither do I.
No.
That's an open question.
Well, I'm suggesting that's a likely fact. That global warming alone by itself and its effects would not wipe out, as you put it, or 100% of the Homo sapiens species on this planet.
I would say I don't have the answer.
There would be survivors.
I would say you don't have the answer.
No.
I would say it depends how severe the greenhouse gas effect is.
Well, I would submit, sir, if I may, that would not be, that could be put to the scientific community. I wonder, what do you think of Jim Hanson's take on it? Jim Hanson's been a real pioneer of all things having to do with this global warming business.
Right.
Has he not? He was on the case way before anybody else.
He's terrified.
Before Bush, what was the
president?
Who was the president that did it? The president, it was all for global warming.
All for fighting Jimmy Carter.
Well, okay, but others too. But anyway, what about Jim? Let's talk about Hanson.
Hanson is terrific.
Now let's talk about what he's saying.
He's saying he's terribly frightened.
Yeah, well,
terribly frightened.
Well, you are too, aren't
you? That's why he's promoting and encouraging atomic energy for our sources of electricity and power.
Now that's
I was very skeptical of that, but no longer. I'm all for it now because the untoward or the negative effects of atomic power now are minuscule compared to what global warming is going to do. Anything that combats that threat, I'm for. And atomic energy at this point will help combat, even if there is a Chernobyl, another 3 Mile Island, I'd rather live with that than unchecked global warming.
Well, that's your individual take on it. But what I'm talking about is sociologically or politically or evolutionarily, what is the attitude of the Homo sapiens species in terms of the effects of the use of atomic energy for providing energy to continue the rather advanced lifestyle for people, rather than that you say would be eliminated by letting us go along the lines that we have done to provide food, clothing, housing, and all the rest of the things to great numbers of people. Where does the atomic energy fit in? Or how do we take it? How do we take advantage of it? Because most of the leading edge of science and so forth throughout all of history has been utilized by certain people who were in a position of particular authority and so forth in order to coerce the population at large and conquer them and take over in charge and take charge of everything and make the decisions. The atomic energy, well, a lot of the people of geopolitical leadership don't want to let go of the political leadership they have to assert their good ideas about how things should be run. And peoples, the various tribes of the Homo sapiens species have fought with each other about who's got the best ideas. And that goes on. And that would go on even under the effects of the most outstanding effects, negative effects of global warming alone, without taking into account the atomic.
Okay. Again, Hansen is promoting the use of atomic energy.
Yeah, but that is denied or vociferously denied by the vast majority of the people who are for global warming. They don't want to have anything to do because that killed a bunch of people in Hiroshima, and it's a disastrous thing. It's a negative thing. It can only be negative. Do away with all the plants, do away with all the nuclear energy and so forth, because we're going to live like all singing Kumbaya, and we're all going to live in peace by making by making farms in the city and all that kind of thinking.
Too late for that.
Okay.
Too late. Again,
Go ahead.
I have to say it again.
Yeah, I know you're reading.
The next few years are probably the most important in human history.
I think
too
that,
late.
but without
too
taking...
late for that.
Well, okay.
Anything that's going to combat global warming at this point, I'm for.
Well,
Atomic energy. Even if Chernobyl blows up, is kindergarten stuff compared to what this is going to bring. You haven't even given me the opportunity to outline what it'll bring.
Well, sir, hear ye. What are they doing? You ever watch? We get the what do you call it? House of Commons out of England. Boy, they really know how to do it. I protest. I will say, the houses of, you see that? It's really fun to watch those guys with the wigs and all of that. Yeah. And people have been proclaiming that kind of a thing since the beginning of time and so forth to make their point. And the thing is, the people that got the atomic energy or had the ability to be ahead in war making and in the power of that have depended upon that advanced status. And it includes things like also just regular old army and means by which you can enforce something on a population, either locally or even globally. Who's got the biggest, army or military clout in order to justify their ability to say what's what on the planet? And the atomic question is one that is that's getting them very, very upset. Because there's some people it's beginning to get around. And also the thing that is something that really has to be thought of, because the only thing from what I've been able to understand, a lot of the questions you're being concerned with, I have too, Ardrey and all the history and the big picture and all of that. I think the only thing that would be able to be projected, the global warming wouldn't do it in terms of species. The only thing that would do it, and it seems Michio Kaku and others show very clearly, the only thing that would literally wipe out the entire Homo sapiens species involves the unleashing of the weapons that we have come upon now that are species lethal.
A couple of things.
No, that is. Global warming is not species lethal. It's inconvenient.
That's debatable.
Well, no, it's not. Mr. Hansen is somebody who could be dealing with that question more appropriately, but he's largely ignored by the political classes making the major decisions.
All right, there are two things there. Number one, you're worried about atomic war. When you have global warming and you got starvation in the Midwest, drought in the Midwest, and when you got cities that are submerging, when you got economic disruption, you are creating the basis for warfare like no tomorrow.
Well, I couldn't agree.
You have the basis for warfare there, fighting for whatever resources are left. Atomic weapons pointed in every direction. Global warming is setting up the possibility for world war that will make Second World War look like kindergarten.
Well, that would be something that might, like a tinder in a fire.
When Americans are starving and Russians are starving and Chinese are starving, what are we going to do to each other?
History.
What are we going to do to each other?
Well, one thing that's going to do is we're going to get to such a state of desperation and so forth that something will set off in a full tilt boogie.
Right.
You do music, don't you? Or you have a lot of musician
I love
friends.
music.
Did you ever jam? You know, when you get into a jam, or there are other examples where you really get in sync, and it's really good. Like when I dance, like Fred Astaire, and you really get into it, man. You get into you know what I'm saying, right? Like that and everything. But the only thing that would do in the species, I don't think the global warming would do it. It would just be really inconvenient, and a lot of people would die, and it would be terrible and everything. But the species was the only thing, and it's never been able to be the characteristic of the time in which people found themselves through 10,000 generations. They were always protected in their impotence at the level of species lethal capability to address.
If you have an atomic war...
Well, let me finish the point.
All right.
There never has been until our time. Okay? And the only thing that would do it would be the unleashing of the atomic and hydrogen weapon systems that finally have gotten to the point where we can now wipe out the whole species. Nothing else been able to do
so
it.
If you got
I want to deal with
if you got crop failures all over the country,
well, the crop failures are a little sidebar.
And people are starving to death in Washington D.C.
People have starved to death always.
No, I mean half of New York.
I know.
All right, you got in that state of mind. You got the hydrogen bomb, and there's some food there in Canada, and China wants it,
They'd be fighting.
And Russia wants.
They'd fight and they'd kill
What are they
going to
fight with?
Well, they would just fight with slingshots.
Will they? Or will they fight with atomic weapons?
Well, that's what
Will that lead to an atomic war? So where is global warming pushing us?
Global warming might be a precursor to it, but that would not
laying the ground. You're getting into minutia.
Not minutia
It's creating
at all.
It's creating the circumstances for war on a massive scale with atomic powers.
Well,
all right. What else do you want?
Well, all I'm saying is global warming would not result in the elimination of the species. That would be a major...
If global warming created massive warfare, then it's doing that.
But it's not the global warfare itself. It would be a precursor.
That's an academic question.
Well, it's a very important question to anybody who thinks. What would it be if you're thinking in terms of evolution and so forth and all these big issues? If that had happened in the 19th century and a lot of people died, they've been doing it dying by armies all over the time. They would just do it, and there's never been justice or anything like that. Now, but if it would take the unleashing of the weapons. Now, what about those weapons? And where does it?
Now,
and what does
if you unleash those weapons, then you will create a nuclear winter. You will create radioactivity all over the world. There's the end of your species.
Well, what about? Oh, well, that's okay. If you,
China's shooting at
that's
Russia.
What I'm trying
Russia's
to tell
shooting
you.
at America. England's shooting at Germany. Everybody's shooting at each other. What's going to happen?
Well, you brought up a thing of scientists, not people in a saloon getting drunk and talking about what they think about the world.
This is radioactivity that doesn't go away.
Right. Okay. Now, but it didn't. The global warming itself would not be able to eliminate the Homo sapiens species. It would be inconvenient. Like 90% of the people would be dead. People would be hitting each other.
It's like saying smoking cigarettes doesn't kill you, cancer does.
I'm running out of metaphors of what we can control one thing to the other. But the atomic weapons, what about back to Mr. Hansen? Mr. Hansen has suggested, and he's ignored, by and large,
tremendously
the overriding people people who support global warming usually are just environmentalists who love little duckies and love people, and they think these weapon systems are just such a terrible thing, and they're all peaceniks and all that kind of stuff, and let's all be good and let's sing hallelujah and all of that. Those kind of people, by and large. And don't talk about atomic. That's the real thing. And the atomic, Mr. Hansen is saying, that energy can be used to create energy that we need to have an advanced civilization without all the windmills. The windmills are beginning to get so the birds can't fly. They get beaten down by all these things, energy. They could take the energy of the atomic weapons there's research that show it, could more than supply all the energy needs of everybody so you could make for a good life. But the people who are into the climate warming thing, no, it's a terrible thing. They won't have it. Mr. Hansen is not being listened to in terms of that. And you know where the store of the is? It's in the tried-in fleets of the United States of America in the Atlantic Ocean. They've got the ability to destroy the species. That's where the danger is. And they still build them up, and they still put new ones down. And that's the thing that ought to be addressed. It ought to be seen as the means for dealing with these, the climate change business should be to unleash. You should have a thing going from a bomb, a little thing you show the kiddies in school, a bomb going into a thing producing endless energy for everybody. There'd be enough energy by tapping into the energy that's in the Trident submarines of the United States of America, who keeps making more and bigger ones by the political class. That's where the end of the species, if that's unleashed, that's the end of the species. Right. Nothing else could do it. Well, and we've never been able to in 200,000 years of existence.
No, right.
We were born into the time when finally we get to the point where we can wipe out everybody.
Right.
What a wonderful thing for Nero to think
what
about.
What an accomplishment.
Yeah, right.
No, the bottom line
we're privileged to be part of the end. Yes, yeah.
Harold, I agree with you. Hansen's right. I'm for
I do too. Why
totally
don't we give him some support?
Now, I think we
Why
should.
don't more people
now,
give
remember,
him support?
If we're going to use atomic energy to get out of this, remember we got 10 years. It takes almost 10 years
to start tomorrow.
We better start tomorrow.
Bring those
That's why I'm here screaming my head off. We got to start working on this right away.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The political system's creeping along like a drunken snail.
But have you paid any attention to what's going on politically? Democrat, Republican, and that they just
they're
build
go
up those
screaming
submarines.
And hollering
they all do.
As this thing gets worse and worse.
So they get more balls.
They're not able to get together. Let's get to work on this.
Well,
that's where we got to go.
Well, that would take for a call.
All right, we'll go back to Homo sapien and some. How much
that's
time
our
do we
species.
have,
We're almost over time, aren't we?
All right, let's get back.
Well, how much time have we got? Tell me.
16 minutes.
16 minutes.
All right,
okay.
let's get back to that original thing about early.
We got to call that other thing. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
About early man and the nature of mankind and solution to this global warming problem. There are technical solutions that are in that report. Carbon tax. You start taxing greenhouse emissions so that they have
everybody's going to grow plants on their roof.
Whatever it is, a carbon tax will make the companies go break their necks to figure out ways to control the pollution. Good, carbon tax will help. There are other remedial things that are suggested technically in the report.
Is that community at large? Global warming is going to be a generally accepted thing now. I mean, Mr. Trump he did away with it all and everything.
Right.
And everything. That's just sort of ignorant. We get over that and everything. But when they do, they're going to be getting it to some solution.
All right. Now
or real cause.
Yeah. Well, first of all, in order for them to get there, they have to be scared. It's not going to be done by saying, rationally, let's change. No, there has to be real fear.
It doesn't work if you just use rationally.
Yeah, no, there has to be.
I've noticed. I believe
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I agree. There has to be real fear.
We got to engage.
That's why I'm screaming, Harold. People should be scared.
Well,
otherwise, not going to work.
Very scared.
Got it.
Yeah, right.
That's
Have I got it? Have I got it down?
Again.
Yeah.
The next few years are probably the most important in human history.
Well, I agree with that.
Well,
because we finally got to the point. Listen, what a monumental thing. We were born. We were privileged to be born into the final moment when we can destroy the whole species. Hallelujah. We've been working toward that forever.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, hallelujah. Now, the adverse side of that, in the yin-yang kind of universe, where the thing like that, is that we not only have we got the ability to destroy it all, which they've been fighting over, we've got the ability, with good design, like Mr. Fuller and some other people would say, to take care of everybody in a non-scarce context, so everybody will become a have.
That's the other.
Rather than just a few. That's the thing that nobody ever wants to bring up.
That's the other side of this.
We could liberate or annihilate. Wait a minute. Yeah. We got a choice for you Americans. we've got a chance as a collective. Let's get together and have a campfire.
Right.
When you were a Boy
No,
Scout.
let's stay alive.
Well, that's a good idea to begin. That's a good thing.
Never mind kumbaya. Let's stay alive.
Yeah, but okay. Well, that's probably a good idea.
Not
right?
a bad idea.
Not a bad idea at all.
I'm 80 years old, so...
You're only 80?
No, 80.
You're just a kid.
I shaved a couple of years.
Oh, no,
I'm
wait
82.
a minute. Don't start.
I'm 82.
You're
Listen,
a kid.
stay alive. I recommend
listen,
that.
Listen, young man, I'm 83. So
Okay.
you see, like
I
that.
defer.
Yeah. No, but
At any rate, what you're saying is the solution to this is
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. If we solve this,
I don't think
there
so.
is your human evolution.
I don't think so.
That's your human.
I don't think that's going to do it without the
you-
atomic energy or without addressing the negative side, which is the war making.
Yeah,
And why not have a thing where we're going to do that as a way of also taking care of everybody in a way? You could have
the
unlimited
solution
energy.
to this problem is to we have to
Atomic
bring
energy
solution to
can
this
be
problem.
safe.
Harold, the solution to this problem is we have to change things absolutely
Now, that gets
dramatically.
around to
Now
the-
hold on, how are you going to do that? You're going to have to cut greenhouse emissions by 45%.
Why don't we let half the population starve to death? That would do it.
That
people could
that
live
might
well.
do
We could
it,
have a
you
dance
know.
at the bar. You know,
Set up
we
some.
could all go in
We
the
should set up
ballroom
a Auschwitz over there in New Jersey and just start throwing people in.
I don't think it's
and
a
we could
good
lower
idea.
the
That's
population.
not a good idea,
That's a solution.
Well, okay, no.
All right.
Look,
The other solution is. The solution to this would be that evolutionary jump you're talking
well,
about.
now that's
That's
talking-
your solution.
Well, no, that's the thing that is.
This pragmatic thing is, what's in it for me, Jack? How much money am I going to make? How's my 401k doing? That's not going to work any longer. Pragmatism now is heading us over the cliff. Idealism is the pragmatism
idealism
of today.
is for losers.
No.
Idealism for losers.
Well, then
in
we're
the corner
losing.
Writing another
Then
poem,
we're going to
or
lose.
another rap
well,
song,
then we're going to
or
lose.
another this
We're
or
going to
that.
lose.
They're all a bunch
we're going to
of
go over.
dreamers.
We're going to go over the cliff.
They're dreamers.
We're-
They
yeah,
just get
yeah.
in the way of
Well,
us business guys
no.
that have it
well,
all
then
under
all
control.
right.
Yeah.
Then die.
No, well, maybe.
Die.
Well, it may be. A lot of things happen in evolution. Most of the 99% of everything that's ever been have gone extinct. All this, the whole evolutionary
We'll go
process
extinct.
is a process of they build to a certain point.
But the form
and then
of
they
our
go
going
So
extinct,
maybe we'll go
the form
extinct.
of our going extinct is not going to leave the planet alone.
Oh.
If we go extinct through global warming, it's not like, oh, we had a Hitler and Mussolini, well, we finally killed those two and we went back to normal. If we get real, what they're talking about here in the next few years is the most important in
It's gonna
history.
be very
If we don't do the
inconvenient.
right things, then
It's gonna
there
be a
are
bit
irreversible. For instance,
we're
if
gonna
the
have to
global warming continues,
go on.
the Arctic ice will melt. The methane trapped in the Arctic ice will go up to the atmosphere. It'll make regular CO2 carbon
Gonna
emissions.
play hell
that's,
on the
that,
seaside
that's kindergarten
labor,
stuff. It's 20 times worse.
gonna
You
play hell
start
on the-
releasing that stuff, it's irreversible.
Yeah, but
it's
it's gonna-
not just that we're going to be hurting the human species. We'll be hurting the entire biosphere with no recovery.
But outside of that, it seems like there might be some. What's the right side?
The right side
Well, no,
is
bright side. What do you say?
the bright side is
look on
according
the
to the
bright side.
all right
of
according
life. Ba-doop-a-doop-a-doop.
all right Harold, according to this report, we have the technological ability to stop global warming up to 1.5 Celsius. If we stop it there, we'll suffer. There'll be worse storms and big fires, but we'll get by. If it goes to 2 Celsius, then the irreversible stuff happens. Really terrible stuff
Well,
happens.
we
We got 10 years to make a change there. If we are able to make that change in 10 years, that means our psychology, our outlook, our politics, our economics, our everything will go through an evolutionary change.
Thank you. You know what that might be? Be introducing into the world a situation of sufficiency rather than scarcity.
Yes, it will do
all
all
of the events that go
in
now
order, I
have
think,
come out of
to
scarcity.
really reverse this and bring down the admission.
You're going to have a
bring
liberation
down,
of the whole society,
right,
like a gigantic jam session.
immense.
Yeah.
Immense.
Liberate everybody, not
Immense.
just a few.
Everybody.
Well,
Immense. immense.
Why don't you run for president? No. I'm being a little silly. But we're born into a time we finally got there as a collective. Finally, after 200,000 years, 10,000 generations of schlepping around and everything, we finally got to the point where we can liberate the entire Homo sapiens species within a good economic context and get a jam session that goes synergistically into another thing, or we can annihilate it.
That's where we are.
Now, do we want to eliminate
That's where we are.
and transcend and come into a new way of being in the
You
universe?
got it, Harold.
Or do we want to go into the throes of
All right, I have some good news.
Oh, good.
This
What's
has been a
the
pretty
time?
gloomy
How much time
hour.
is there? How much time? 8 minutes still. We got 8
I have
minutes.
some good news. We were talking about
We got to get in. Oh, go ahead.
talking about Homo sapiens
Yeah.
and what was life like for those 200,000 years.
I thought it was grim, but you're telling me it wasn't
All
grim,
right, that's
yeah.
the good news.
Well, maybe.
Civilization is about 15,000 years old. Homo sapiens is 200 and maybe 230,000 years.
230?
Yes.
I always
All
thought
right.
200.
So civilization is a small part of human experience.
Oh, yeah,
all
just
right?
yesterday.
We are exactly genetically
We're
the
wandering
same.
around in the wilderness.
Homo sapien, it could have been our mother and grandmother 200,000
Now,
years
I
ago.
always thought they were just surviving on a piece of carrion
No,
or something. They're fighting off a
all right,
tiger that
I'm
had
giving
big
you.
teeth.
I'm giving you the cutting edge
it was
science.
grim.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
The cutting edge science in that coming from coming from archaeology, anthropology, sociobiology, from biology, from geology, from many different sciences. There's whole libraries on this now.
Yeah.
Tremendous number of studying the human species during that 220,000 years. We are social animals. In biology, there are solitary animals and there are social species. Wolves are social species.
Yeah, they run in packs.
They run in pack.
Yeah.
A lone
But
wolf.
they do have a chief.
Oh yeah, well
Did you
they
ever
have a
read
heart.
didn't you read the book Silver Chief?
Yeah.
You know Silver Chief? The book? About the sled dogs in Alaska? One of those dogs wants to be the leader.
I've studied wolves. I've been in Alaska and seen them up front.
You have?
I've studied the studies on wolves. They're tremendous
I got
studies.
stuck on top of Mount McKinley in a terrible storm.
I know
tell you, I
about that.
learned my lesson. I
All
don't
right.
trust
Our
Mother
wolves
Nature.
are social animals.
Yeah.
Monkeys are social animals. We are very evolved monkeys. We're social animals. So we are. That's
Yeah.
where we come from.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you believe in
Yeah.
Darwin.
Are you optimistic, pessimistic
All right.
for the human
So all
prospect?
right. Here's what I'm trying to get the good news. As social animals, when we were traveling as hunter-gatherers in small bands of 10 to 20, you couldn't survive out there alone. The tigers would eat you up, absolutely. But when you had 15, 20 people, you could fight them off.
A tiger, but what about a whole band of tigers?
No, tigers don't
Tigers
travel
have
in
big
bands.
teeth. They have big teeth and they run
don't.
fast.
Tigers are not social.
They got claws.
Yeah, they're not social animals. They're solitary animals.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
Humans are social animals.
Yeah, but
so they had numbers. Like wolves have numbers.
Mm.
That's why they're able to bring in the wintertime. They could bring down a buffalo.
Mm.
A lone wolf cannot bring down a buffalo. He'd starve to death in winter. He needs the others to stay alive.
Well, is this...
So did the hunter-gatherers. They needed each other to stay alive.
Yeah, it took agriculture to really get civilization
Agriculture ended that.
Yeah.
It created wealth, and it created hierarchy. It created slavery. It created all kind of things.
It created
And
abundance. It created abundance for many.
It created abundance. But
And what's called progress.
Yeah, but in evolutionary history and in geology and all that, 10,000 years doesn't mean diddly.
Well,
It's
probably
meaningless.
Did. The people that
It's
lived
hard-
in that
it's-
10,000
yeah,
window,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
the people
they
in
probably
one
didn't
period
feel that way about it.
is not
These are the
evolution.
best of
Not
times and the worst
evolution.
of times.
That's strictly narcissism. If you're talking about a species, it's more than 10,000 years.
Well, it seems to me we're in a position where we are either going to transcend our 200,000...
The species being threatened. What's more important, Did I have my air conditioner and I go to Florida for the winter? Or that my grandchildren are going to survive into the next century?
How strong is the air conditioner?
I'll get a bigger one.
Okay.
Would me worry? Are you kidding?
Yeah, right.
I'll get a bigger air conditioner.
Okay.
And I'll get an air purifier.
Right.
And I'll hire security guards. I'll get through this.
No, if you get it for everybody, you won't need security guards. If you get an elemental justice where everybody's a have, that's something that might become the point. Everybody can realize their full potential rather than being all caught up with all kinds of things that they had to do to survive. That's something that we're maybe transcending and maybe a positive thing.
Well,
One thing I know is we're not going to run out. We're going to run out of time.
If we solve this, we'll do it.
Well,
if we don't solve this, we
but
won't
I'm
do it.
just saying there's a bigger issue than global warming.
Well, maybe
there's a bigger issue, a bigger, more
getting to the
issue.
bigger issue, you got to solve this one.
Well, if you get to the bigger one, you'd have the means to get there.
Well, how are you going to get there in the next 10 years? You tell me, in the next 10 years, is Jesus coming back?
Well, no, but we just laid it out there. They got enough energy to take care of all the energy needs.
So how are you going to get Congress and everybody to agree to do that in the next 10 years?
Well, that is a challenge.
Are you going to do? Are you able to do that?
I don't know. I have an awful lot of pull on my block, but I don't know if I could do so good at. Now you see. Yeah, okay. What time is it? What time is it?
I'll tell you in the last 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
I'm worried about the call. We got to make a call. But anyway, yeah, okay. It's a major issue, and it's a major time to have been born. You could have been born in the 6th century. It'd be so boring.
Well, it's exciting. It is
we got
exciting.
enough wood to get on the fire to get it, and all of that. I don't. I see, and it's Daedalus had, or what had Daedalus say? History is a nightmare of inadequate. History, nightmare of injustice, injustice, from which I'm attempting to awaken.
You have 2 minutes.
Now that's something we could take for. We come to a time where we have an opportunity to awaken from a 200,000-year sojourn that is not a happy little thing done. It was very won by sweat and toil and a lot of injustice and a lot of nonsense and so forth, but we have a chance to come up to a point, we have an opportunity to make a world where everybody can become on their own terms and be in a situation comfortably there where they are able to do what it is they want to do, not what they have to do by some fiat, and that they're able to realize their full potential. Do you ever do jam? You do music, do you? Jam session. Everybody's hitting their machine right, not just a few, or a few leaders or something. A jam session, a gigantic jam session of the spheres. There'll be a resonancy that'll inter-accommodate us to a universe at a level transcendent to what we've been. We're going through a process, perhaps, of speciation within our lifetime. It's incredible if that's the case. You could have born in the 6th century. You had a long trail up Mount Sisyphus.
If we solve this, maybe that'll happen.
Maybe. Well, that would be something that would be solved. That would be solved.
So
in a
maybe
moment.
this is an opportunity. We'll see.
But it's good to call it to attention, is it not? To all citizens should be.
You don't make solutions by not facing your problem.
Right. Well, we tried to get to it here now, and it's been your pleasure to have the perception of
Bennett Kremen.
Bennett, like Bennett Cerf.
Right.
Bennett Kremen.
Right. And I've just come out with a book called The Performance.
Yeah, he's got a book called The Performance, which
is available
really good,
on Amazon.
And it helps to include. It
deals with this idea that we might be in a twilight zone.
Good. Yeah. The twilight zone is a major zone.
Twilight
book.
Zone of human existence.
There's a major book, The Twilight Zone, that spells out atomic destruction of it all.
So it's called The Performance.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for viewing. That's it. Now we got to wrap it up. Okay. Thank you for viewing. We'll be coming back. We'll be coming back tomorrow on Conversations. And it's really good to talk with you, my brother.
You too, Harold.
Thanks for bringing this all up.
Okay.
Okay, over and out for now.